This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. Saturating the media this weekend, Sussex propagandist Victoria Ward kicking this off yesterday in The Telegraph with this article. Home Office tries to block new security for Prince Harry. Officials fear public outcry if Duke and Duchess of Sussex get taxpayer-funded protection. I think it's about time. Someone needs to say enough is enough. I mean, the sheer entitlement coming out of Montecito is getting ridiculous. We've been told the Royal and VIP Executive Committee, also known as UREVEC, is currently deciding whether these two should keep receiving their so-called royal security paid for by the British public every time they decide to pop back to the UK. Yeah, I mean, this has been going on, and I thought that this was supposed to be done already, but it doesn't seem like it. According to this article, civil servants from the Home Office, Cabinet Office, and Foreign Office are reportedly pushing back hard. That's what they're reporting. Why? Because right now, giving Harry and Meghan a blank check for security is literally political suicide. And I think Labour is fearing backlash, rightfully so. Considering the climate in the UK right now, I don't think the native Brits are in any kind of mood to be shelling out taxpayer money to fund security for this man baby and his bitch wife, who happen to be millionaires. So apparently, a so-called Home Office source told The Telegraph there's a split in the committee. Some are nervous about the massive public backlash. The source claimed there is nervousness among certain members who fear a public backlash. The political side believe there's too much political risk, while the police, allegedly, and security chiefs believe that he absolutely must have it back due to the external threats. At the same time, coincidentally, yesterday, Harry's PR likely paid this guy to make these statements around how spiteful it is if Harry doesn't get his security back by the Home Office, citing Harry is a royal who significantly served in the armed forces. To ask him to pay for it privately feels a tiny bit spiteful, given that there are other members of the royal family who receive it who do far less. Now, of course, they had to throw in the Invictus Games being hosted in Birmingham, which is a hotbed for ISIS terrorists, says Mr. Rayner touched on the upcoming Invictus Games scheduled for July, where Harry is scheduled to make his return to Britain. He told the Daily Mail, "This guy was flying Apaches in a conflict, and we've got the Invictus Games coming up in Birmingham. Are we not supporting him for that?" Well, given that Birmingham is Shabana Mahmood's Home Secretary's territory, one would think that it probably is the safest place on this earth, right? Because isn't Islam the religion of peace? They're going to be surrounded by over 300 Muslims that have occupied the territory. So what's there to be worried about? Judging the reactions online, I don't think anybody's buying it, neither myself. Looking at this, Prince Harry is likely the one trying to force the government's hand by getting The Telegraph to put this article out there, and then coordinating with his friend to create the optics and getting the media to aggregate this out there around the globe. I am very doubtful anyone from inside the committee would actually leak this kind of sensitive information. I mean, we are dealing with security, right? Unless it came straight from Harry or his PR team, which is what I think has happened. By now, we've seen the script before. It looks like a calculated PR stunt. Harry probably already knows they're about to say no again, so he's trying to shame the government in advance and create a total PR nightmare if they publicly refuse his security demands. This is classic Meghan and Harry PR manipulation. Play the victim, leak the story, and then watch the pressure build. Now, of course, Harry's camp is staying quiet while positioning themselves as the victim. I mean, we saw this all before. Remember last year when Harry sat on the BBC after he lost his court tantrum, called it a good old-fashioned establishment stitch-up, blamed the royal household, and claimed the decision hits him every single day and stops him from bringing Meghan and the kids back to Britain? Does the Sussex PR team not understand that nobody cares in the UK for his wife or the invisible children? I think Harry and Meghan know full well that the UK can't stand them, and there's little doubt that Meghan is going to bring those invisible children over. Like, all of this is just about pulling on the heartstrings and creating the optics. But what the PR team is failing to understand is that these two have pulled on those heartstrings long enough that they have completely snapped off. I think the real heartstrings that Harry is trying to target is Shabana Mahmood's. Let's not forget who sits on that committee. The King's private secretary, people from Prince William's household, the Met Police, and multiple government departments. So you already see how Harry is positioning here. You don't give me back my security, I'm going to blame you, William. I'm going to blame you, Charles. And I'm going to weaponize the media so that it looks like you're the bad people. Meanwhile, we've got Harry chilling out in California, flying private, and has no troubles traveling to the most dangerous countries, and already getting protection when he visits the UK. Yet somehow, the threats against him and his bitch wife have magically gotten worse since he left. Come on. This is why we need to ignore the mainstream media, because these propagandists fail to mention every single time that the negative attention that they receive is a result of their bad behavior. And this is why people are getting really annoyed with the constant harassment of these articles being pushed into the public domain, constantly whining and moaning. Like, why can't you just shut up, Harry? Shut up. And obviously, the Home Office is not going to say anything. Their official line is the usual cop-out. Our protective security system is rigorous and proportionate. We don't comment on details. And I think Harry full well knows this. So let's get real. Why on earth should the British taxpayers be forced to bankroll security for two multi-millionaire celebrities who quit doing their royal duty, trash their family, and now live a multi-million-dollar lifestyle in California? Is this really about genuine safety, or is it something else? I think it's the latter. I mean, what do you guys think? Is Harry leaking this to pressure the Home Office? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments below. I believe this would be a terrible move for the UK Labour government. With mass illegal immigration being welcomed into the country, Islam gaining ground, and the grooming of white British girls continuing to be unchecked, this decision would only confirm that the government is failing to protect the homeland. Will Shabana give in to Harry and prove that her failed leadership has left the UK so unsafe that taxpayers now must foot the bill to protect this ginger prick? It's not a good look at all. And I think the public will be irate about it. And I think Harry already knows this with these articles that he has his team being put out there. And don't think that Harry and Meghan don't know that they are getting on everybody's last nerve. That's the goal. This is about wearing the public down to a point where we just stop talking about it because we're so exhausted by it. But it's not going to work, Harry, because the more you continue to keep doing this, the more people see what you're doing. And if you haven't noticed, Harry, more people are talking about how fed up and fatigued we are of you. Get the hint.
Evening, Alex. Well, I think that what we can say is that it's a very tricky issue because it was being briefed just a few months ago that Harry was going to have his security restored. And I think that we can see that that was Camp Sussex was coming back with the usual briefing. And I think it's a really, really difficult issue because ultimately, I don't think anybody would actually like Harry, and especially not Meghan, to be having taxpayer-funded security, because I think that ultimately they went to Montecito of their own accord. They did not actually decide they're going to be part of the royal family anymore. And so there's a question as to why we should be paying our, hard-earned taxpayers' money to give them this security. But then on the other hand, you have to look at it on a wider range of things. One of the things you have to look at it as is, are they a likely target? And the answer is, well, yes. And it's not just disaffected royalists. It's going to be all manner of people as well. So usually that would entitle them to some kind of level of security. But I think it's difficult because you might want to, on the one hand, look at one's own personal feelings about Harry and Meghan and how they've behaved, and try and take that out of the equation as far as you can. But the second issue is basically, why should we pay? Why should we be putting taxpayer-funded money into something like this? Because ultimately, they have a perfect right to hire their own security at great expense. And in fact, one of the things about Harry that's been particularly uncharming over the last few years is he goes on and on and on about how much security costs. And you think, well, mate, ultimately you're the person who's created a situation where you need it, aren't you?
Yeah, at this point, I think it's anyone's guess whether or not they'll get their security back. At this point, I don't think it really matters what's being put out into the media. All this is doing is just gaslighting the public, which these globalists seem to enjoy. And since when has the Labour government, or even the king, listened to anything that the public has to say? They're going to do as they please, and what we have been watching over the past 6 years has been nothing but theater. Now, while I think there are some family issues, Harry and Meghan were here on a mission, and that mission was political. And as I've been saying for a while now, they are in the process of trying to extrapolate this guy back to the UK. I don't think William was in the know of what Meghan was up to, but the royal family knew Meghan was bad news. And I think there was a lot of manipulation going on back then, including support from the palace. And when I say support, we're talking about Sarah Latham, we're talking about James Holt. If you haven't noticed, people working for the royal family do have political affiliations that heavily leans towards the left, otherwise supporting the globalist agenda. And I believe that this saga with Harry and Meghan was a result of a covert mission that Harry and Meghan were sent on here in America. I don't think William was privy to a lot that was going on. I do believe Charles had an idea, not so much to the extent of what Meghan did in 2021 and afterwards, but I do believe that there was some type of watered down version of Harry coming over to the United States to reshape the media landscape and support the Biden regime for the 2020 election. It's why we saw the Queen give Harry and Meghan a year to try it out, because I do believe that there was an understanding that after the elections, they were going to come back. And this is where I think Meghan went rogue. It's pretty clear that we have not been told the full story, and it's all sides, not just Harry and Meghan, but also the royal family who have not been forthcoming. Remember, everything about the royal family and what they do is always about optics. Likelihood, the first question they ask is, how is it going to look? Which brings me now to this next piece that was put out in the Times UK yesterday about Prince William making a significant move that many see as a quiet but powerful statement. According to this article, William is publicly affirming his personal commitment to the church. The headline is promising, and I think it's good that William is thinking ahead. The question is this just a PR exercise, or are we going to see William really step up in his reign and defend the faith? I want to go through and highlight certain parts of this article because they do seem really promising. However, I am cautiously optimistic. So it says here, William, 43, is not a devout Christian, nor a regular churchgoer like the king and the late Queen Elizabeth. His commitment to his Christian faith has long been questioned. Days before he attends the Archbishop of Canterbury's enthronement this week, Prince William has moved to draw a line in the sand on the issue. After years of doubt, William, who was baptized at 6 weeks old and confirmed at the age of 14, has addressed questions for the first time about his personal faith and confirmed his wish to establish a strong and meaningful bond with the church and its leadership. A source close to the prince said, "This week is an opportunity to be very clear in people's minds when he walks into Canterbury Cathedral of where he stands. For him, it is a drawing of a line in the sand of where he's at, and it's really important that it, meaning the question over his commitment to the church, is cleared up." So pay close attention to how carefully this was worded. His feeling is, I might not be at church every day, but I believe in it. I want to support it, and this is an important aspect of my role and the next role, and I will take it very seriously in my own way. The prince will attend the installation of Dame Sarah Mullally at Canterbury Cathedral on Wednesday with the Princess of Wales on behalf of the King. It is protocol for the heir to attend rather than the monarch. His intervention signals that his relationship with the Church will evolve from that of previous monarchs whose strong faith underpinned their reigns. An aide to William told the Sunday Times, "The Prince of Wales's commitment to the Church of England is sometimes quieter than people expect, and for that reason, it is not always fully understood." Again, listen to how carefully worded this all is. Those who know him well recognize that his connection to the Church and the sense of duty that comes with it runs deep and is grounded in something personal and sincere. Faith, service, and responsibility are themes that have long shaped the role he will one day inherit, and they are things he approaches in his own thoughtful way. At a time when institutions can be seen simply through a social or cultural lens, he understands that the Church's role goes beyond this. It is not only part of the nation's heritage, but a living expression of faith rooted in prayer, compassion, and a belief in grace and redemption. William's stance on his relationship with the Church, which he feels reflects the nation's shifting attitudes towards Christianity, will be seen as a sign of how he plans to reign as king. The aide added, "True to his character, he approaches these relationships as his authentic self, as he looks ahead to the responsibilities he will one day assume as Supreme Governor. He is keen to build a strong and meaningful bond with the Church and its leadership, one that respects tradition while speaking to a modern Britain and reflects his broader belief that institutions must continue to remain relevant and connected to the people they serve." He understands the importance of the role he will inherit and is committed to carrying it forward with sincerity, authenticity, and a clear sense of purpose. Now, it's these three statements in this article that make me feel a little uneasy because nowhere in this article does it say that William has the foundational belief in Jesus Christ as Savior. So what does it really mean when he says that he believes in the Church and wants to support it? What exactly are you believing, William? Do you believe that Jesus Christ is the Savior, or are you believing in the structure of having the role to appoint bishops and keep the constitutional duty and framework around it? Because that's what it's sounding like to me. As he says in his next role, he will take it very seriously in his own way. Well, no, this is not your way. You're there to serve God, period. Your role is to maintain the true profession of the gospel, which is the Christian message of salvation through Jesus Christ. Last I thought was that as Supreme Governor of the Church of England, you are there to maintain the doctrine on earth because you are serving a higher power, which is God. Now, in my opinion, as nice as this headline looks with William's new commitment to the Church, it's not necessarily a commitment to God. Look, I get that modern Britain is changing, and yes, there is a noticeable shift in attitude with Christianity, meaning that they're not acknowledging the gospel and that Christ is our Savior. Instead, what we're seeing is atheism is on the rise and people taking a more spiritual route in their lives. And that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting here with some of these quotes in this article. Is that the route that William is now planning to take the Church of England? As is, over the last 10 years, we see how the Church of England has fallen in line with this leftist progressive agenda and have begun to adopt this multicultural interfaith relationship with Islam. And at the same time, to be inclusive, there's more and more instances in the UK where Jesus Christ now is taking a back seat and not even being mentioned when it comes to observing Christian holidays. So if you notice here, this year, 2026, Cadbury chose not to write Easter eggs on it because they didn't want to offend anybody. Now, if William thinks that the Church is reflecting the nation's shifting attitudes towards Christianity and this being okay, I sure hope that this is not all lip service and telling Christians what they want to hear to keep them at bay, because right now, the way that the UK is going when it comes to respecting Christianity, it's no wonder why people are turning away and disrespecting the Church. Is anyone seeing Islam being disrespected in this way? No. So I'm being cautiously optimistic and trusting that Prince William is sincere and wants a tighter bond with the church, and we're going to have to just pray for him that maybe he will see the light and make Jesus his savior, or openly declare that Jesus is the savior and put the church first, period. That's what I'm hoping for, but it does feel very much like this is pandering and making sure they don't exclude the Christians, because Christians right now are pretty pissed off at King Charles after the state dinner with Nigeria and bowing to Islam while Christians are being slaughtered. Yeah, I do hope that this wasn't just a PR exercise by William to protect the future of his reign. I think the true test is when we see his coronation. Is he going to do the same thing that King Charles did by announcing that he's defender of the faiths, meaning all of them, or is he going to stay with tradition and commit to defending the faith? That's going to be the big test, I think, in my mind. But what do you guys think? Definitely leave your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Such a fraud.